Did Trump just cancel rent for tenants in America? Let's talk about it. My name is Brendan Turner, host of the BiggerPockets podcast, author of the book on rental property investing. So obviously I'm a landlord, and when I saw the news yesterday come across all my social feeds, I gotta admit, I was a bit alarmed because some of the news articles out there sound like rent was just canceled for the rest of the year for tenants. But that's not actually the case. So here's the deal. The Trump administration announced that the CDC will halt COVID-19 related evictions through the end of the year. Now, the order is set to start this Friday, September 4th, 2020, and it's supposed to last through the end of the year, so December 31st, 2020. Now, that sounds scary, right? But don't panic just yet. I'll break down what this means for you as a landlord or as a tenant. Now, here are 5 things you need to know. Number 1, and perhaps most importantly, despite the dramatic headlines, this eviction halt only applies to tenants who are unable to pay rent due to COVID-19. In other words, rent is not canceled. According to the Wall Street Journal, unemployment is hovering around 10% right now. So in other words, 90% of your tenants still have jobs, and they're still likely going to have jobs, and they're going to likely be able to pay their rent. Number 2, closely related to number 1, every tenant on the lease will have to actually fill out a declaration form and prove that they are at risk of being evicted, that they've tried to get government help. They have to show that they've demonstrated to this judge that they can't pay the rent because of the pandemic specifically. So examples of hardship include loss of income, loss of work hours or wages, layoffs, or extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses. In fact, tenants are going to have to show that an eviction would actually lead them to becoming homeless or having to move in with other people in kind of congregate housing if they were evicted. Not good for, trying to stop a pandemic. Okay, number 3, the draft of this order says that evictions for reasons other than not paying rent will be still allowed to move forward. So if you're a tenant and you decide that because of this whole COVID thing, you can move in 90 cats and trash your house and have parties till 4 a.m. and the landlord can't do anything about it, well, just don't do that because you're still likely going to be evicted. Number 4, the eviction moratorium only applies to tenants who were financially eligible for a stimulus check earlier this year. So it basically is individuals who earned less than $99,000 in income, or couples filing jointly who earned $198,000 or less on their most recent tax return. And number 5, even if a tenant proves to a judge that they truly can't pay rent due to COVID-19 and an eviction is halted, the declaration form states that fees, penalties, and interest for not paying rent on time as required by their lease agreement may still be charged or collected. Additionally, at the end of the temporary eviction halt, the landlord may require payment in full for all payments not made prior to and during the temporary halt, and failure to pay may make them subject to eviction then. So in other words, legally, the tenant will still be responsible for all that missed rent if they choose not to pay. Of course, this just creates a much bigger problem down the road, and it's going to lead to just a glut of evictions after the new year. But hey, that's government for you, right? Why solve a problem today when you can just kick it down the road after an election? All right, so what can you do? Well, my suggestion as a landlord, follow the rules. Help those tenants who truly have need and create a win-win solution with your tenant. Kind of like the one I proposed in this video way back in April when this whole fear of tenants not paying rent first hit the world. I'm going to treat my tenants like real humans. I'm going to talk with them about their options. And worst case, I'll create some kind of payment plan next year for those who truly need it. Look, tenants, if you have the means to pay your rent, then pay your rent. This eviction halt does not mean rent is canceled. Don't be a jerk. Your landlord needs rent to be able to pay their mortgage, or else they're going to lose their property to foreclosure, and then you're just going to get kicked out by the bank, and that doesn't really help anybody. And landlords, remember, your tenants are people too. They're going through a hard, scary time. So let's treat everybody with dignity and respect and work together to emerge from this quagmire a more resilient society. I'll certainly be keeping you updated as the story continues to develop throughout the year. For BiggerPockets.com, my name is Brandon Turner. Signing off.
Big